Welcome to the Dream Huge podcast, where we'll talk with real estate investors, entrepreneurs, business leaders, athletes, and more to inspire you with their success stories so you can work hard, never give up, and dream huge. And now, let's start the show.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Dream Huge podcast. Man, super excited for this one today. We love to share success stories from other huge dreamers, folks in the real estate business, entrepreneurs, movers, shakers, influencers, and more. And hopefully these stories will help to motivate and inspire you to also dream huge, baby. So today we have Jeremy Lessaris on the program. How you doing, Jeremy?
Fantastic. Love your energy, man.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We always bring the high energy on the Dream Huge podcast. Jeremy is a serial entrepreneur. And pre-show, we're talking a little bit about what should we talk about. And he says, man, I'm a serial entrepreneur. And he went off to name about 5 or 6 different things. So I think this is going to be a great one. So let's jump right into it. Jeremy, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you mostly do currently.
Sure. So I have the same sickness most people have that are probably listening to this podcast. It's a bug of entrepreneurship. I started it really, really young. My first company, I would say I was 6. And, something my father kind of indoctrinated into me really early with a lemonade stand. It didn't seem like much. Like it was just a really simple concept. But I think back then it was really trying to get me in that mode. And I loved it from beginning to end, failure to, success. I have built and sold 8 tech companies, some successful, some not so successful. I've probably started 100 companies and failed 98 of them pretty quickly. So I've had the same ups and downs and challenges. I think now as I go down the path of building new companies with more meaning and really having a different approach because I have a little bit more stability and focus in how I grow things and build things. I've tried to get on shows like this and also mentor and help where I can in driving people down the right path of entrepreneurship, because there's a lot of different avenues to take and there's a lot of advice floating out. I don't sell consulting. I don't have a book. I'm not into that kind of thing, but it's kind of giving back to the community that helped me. And I would tell you, mentorship, and I wish these types of podcasts used to exist back then, because I could have got around so many of the hurdles and challenges I had early on. So I guess now it's just really sharing my story and trying to get as much out there as I can to help startups, entrepreneurs, people that are in business and in growth mode and various stages of their organization, hopefully not do some of the things I did. And that's really what I'm focused on now. I built a new company called Verifee, and my goal is just cost reduction, because I think if you look at what's happening in every environment, software, tech, hardware, all the gear people need to operate their day-to-day, everybody's latching on to profit, right? So everybody's trying to fight for every dollar they possibly can. And it's tough because everything is SaaS now. Everything's another monthly fee. So I just, when I looked at one of the biggest hidden fees in most people's businesses, it's finance. Most people don't manage their cash properly. And I know payments and payment transferring became, really expensive and predatory. So I built a company around helping people cost reduce using tools and tech to do that. So I think in general, that's really what I'm focused on, is more giving back and putting money back in people's pockets.
Excellent. Yeah, you got to keep your eye on all those fees and be your own CFO, as we talked about on one of our most recent podcasts, because, man, it can quickly get out of hand. So that company is now called Verifee. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
And where can folks find more on that?
Verifee.com.
Excellent.
Verifee. I think that the thing there, and it's really important to me, is this was a business to give back. We actually don't charge anything up front. We do all the work. We do all the stuff that they need to get done in terms of analysis and building the proprietary data that we use. And I would say what's important is that we don't sell credit card processing. We just help people negotiate with their existing vendors. And we're going to start opening that up into other services, because I just keep seeing more and more on the banking side where these guys are just dipping in everyone's pockets and no one's paying attention. Like I don't know the last time I talked to somebody who was like, oh yeah, I actively look at all of my finances all the time. I'm, taking note of all these things banks are doing. And, sometimes people catch all these fees or monthly fees or transaction fees or other things that just are floating out there in the abyss, and they just don't know that it's happening. And it makes a major impact to people's bottom line. It's 1%, 2% could be a big deal.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. You got to pay attention to those details. Yeah, and we can get buried within statements and fees and lack of statements with paper lists and
Man.
everything, and it can get real dangerous real fast.
Yeah, it's not just that. I think like everybody has to be an expert at everything now. Like it's like, if you're a small startup or entrepreneur, you have to wear 100 hats already, and the game is rigged. It's not easy. They make it super complicated on purpose.
Yep.
They don't have this kind of problem in Europe. They don't have it in Canada, but on the payment side in the US, there's 3,000 different rates and fees. They've made it really exaggeratedly hard to understand. We even tapped on a forensic accountant because I really wanted to get a soundbite saying, could you read this? And they can't either. So it's pretty interesting to me that, you got to be the boss. You got to hire people. You got to train them. You got to do the day-to-day operations. You got to also manage your QuickBooks and all the other things. And now you have to be like more educated than a forensic accountant to do these types of things. It's just not right. And like I said, the game's rigged. It's not in our favor. And so I'm really fighting that fight. And I hope that we can make a bigger impact on the industry, the whole community of small business. Because
screw all this small business nonsense. I'm going back to, eventually I'm either going back to a 9-to-5, all right, or what Grant Cardone teaches me, I need to be an investor, not a small business owner, because the small business owner works more than anybody.
Everybody.
Yes.
The unfortunate part is we need it, right?
Right.
So small business is the crux of the world here. And I think it's tough because, go get a job or be an investor. But at some point, you're going to invest in these same small companies. There's a point where you still need somebody to provide all the services locally, and that impacts everybody. And those fees, that buck gets passed to the consumer. So it's hyperinflation that this country has not seen in forever. So even though, managing real estate and all these other things, don't forget like all the home services that are involved in that, just 3% more and another 2% here. And so it's additive, right? And that cuts profits even for the consumer side. And they're just not paying attention to it. Even in the real estate, I know, real estate doesn't identify immediately with credit card processing fees, but remember, how do you pay for a title search? How do you pay for that? You're paying those fees at some point. So it is, the buck is getting passed to the consumer side, and it's brutal. It's really bad. And then more recently, and I'm sure you've been out to a restaurant or, you start seeing like 3% convenience fee, 4% convenience fee, and then another fee here. And the government's like barking up the wrong tree. They're like, we want to get rid of junk fees. Like, it's one of the biggest junk fees out there, and it doesn't cost that much. And, it's all automated now. Don't get me wrong. I love frictionless walking in. You can like tap or use your face and scan your thumbprint. Like at this point you can sneeze and pay. Like I'm sure there's 100 different ways to make payments. I love that. That's great as a consumer, but like we're paying for it. And they keep promising us like you're going to join the Mile High Club, and that they lied. Like these miles are garbage. try using miles to go fly right now. Like,
no doubt.
Like 300,000 miles plus $1,800. It's like, what would happen?
Yeah.
I thought this was free. So we got sold a line of garbage, and the banks know how to do it best. Like they're the best at it.
You might have to go switch back to good old cash.
There's a cost to cash too. I actually wrote an article about this. It had to be like less than a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. The cost of cash is like averages 14%.
Wow.
Because you got to think about all the stuff you have to have with cash. You got to have security. You can get robbed. You could have inside people taking cash. You got to have safes. You got to have security stuff that monitors those safes. And then if you actually take real cash, like a lot of cash, now I got Brinks trucks. Those aren't free. They don't come and pick that money up for free. So you got cash registers and locks and all that other stuff. That stuff adds up.
And if I want to go convert that to a money order, I got to drive to the store to get a money order.
It's a mess, man.
Time. That takes money.
Also, have you been to a bank recently to deposit cash?
Yeah.
There's nobody in there.
Right. If they are, they want your ID and everything else too.
Yeah. And they charge, believe it or not. If you try to deposit large amounts of cash into a bank, they charge you for it. And there's mistakes, man. You got to have money counters. If you're really in real business and doing a serious volume, cash is not helpful. And people are like, well, yeah, because you can do certain things with it. It's like, yeah, I get it, but there's still a cost of cash too. So I'm not saying I don't want people to go away from credit cards. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. We're all plugged into that matrix, man. No one wants unplugged from that.
Yes,
I still want my rewards.
Right. Same.
But pushing the buck back onto us sucks, and it's expensive. I mean, inflation's been average. I'm not saying the last couple of years, but for the last 30 years, it's been 2.5%. So now we're just like add 3% to that just because banks want more money. It sucks.
Yeah, we've become used to it, unfortunately. Like you said, and ultimately it gets passed down. So
yeah, I mean, the business isn't paying for it. I still want my margin.
Right.
So just because you don't see it on the bill somewhere, like, that 3% surcharge, they're still getting you for it. They're just raising their price.
So check out verifee.com, verifee.com. And Jeremy can help you dive into those statements and check out those fees and see where you may be able to save some money and negotiate with your current provider. In other words, not necessarily switch providers, but negotiate.
No, we don't.
Correct.
The devil you know is better than the devil you don't.
Yeah.
Stay with who you're with. Keep your POS system. Don't retrain people. Don't set up new account. Like, that's a game of bait and switch. You switch and then they got you again, and they just slowly raise their pricing whenever they feel like it.
And how do you make your money on your service, Jeremy?
So we split whatever we can document and save. So if we can help you save money, we'll take a small piece of that and we continuously monitor it for them. So because it's going to change, right?
Sure.
Like
they say, we'll match that. We'll fix that for this month.
Yeah. And then a couple months later,
it's right back on there. Plus.
Yeah. And it's basis points. And if people don't know how to do that calculation, we're talking about hundredths of a percent. So it just goes unnoticed because no one knows how to read these things. So we take that statement every month, we roll it into our system. It automatically detects those changes. And the second we see it, we're right back on the phones. And our team actually does all the negotiations. So it's actually a hands-off environment. You can go back to doing your business. We become kind of a partner. Think of us like an extended arm of your supply chain team. We just go in and help you negotiate. We document the savings. We constantly monitor it. And the second we see some change, we're back on there trying to help. Because if we save you $0, we make $0. There's no cost. We don't like, here's the cost for doing all the analysis and negotiation. If we're not successful, we make $0.
Hey,
so it's
Jeremy,
kind of a cool model.
How much revenue in credit cards should my company be doing before I contact you?
Probably $100,000 a month. I mean, I think, if you're doing sub that, I'm not saying we can't help you, but where we see, the first real step is at that price point. Now, I will say, and I have a case study on this. There was a company that was doing about $120,000 or $130,000 a month. We saved them like $6,000 a month. And the reason why was because of how predatory the software they were using is. So they had a software package that manages their business. And from that, they can send out invoices and do certain things. And because of that, they were forced to use one processor. So the guy was like, I'm stuck. I'm like, well, you're not really stuck. We just need to go negotiate with that specific vendor that you have to use. And we were successful, and it saved them a ton of money. So, but every deal is different. Our minimum savings for people is $300 a month. So if we can't save you $300 a month, there's really nothing we could do to help. We'll give you a bunch of DIY stuff, like do these things to cost reduce. And we don't really share in on that. But again, it's a giving back to the community piece that puts money, literally, it's a net positive. So it's just a pure cost reduction exercise. And it's less than an hour worth of work for the people that are involved. And on our side, we take all that heavy lift. We'll do all the analysis, all the negotiation, all the monitoring. They don't really have to do much on their end.
And then if you monitored it, am I getting like a monthly check-in, a quarterly check-in with you? What does that look
great.
like?
So we built software to do this, right? So you can log in, see your dashboard, see how much we saved you each month, see exactly where we saved you that money. And you can do the math. Like, we've actually simplified what they've made very complicated. So you can log in and see transaction level record, or you can even see like, okay, here's exactly what I saved this month. Here's what I would have paid based on my old rates and fees. Here's what I'm paying this month based on the new rates and fees. Obviously, because that's what they deduct. And so that delta becomes very easy to track, and it's very transparent. Like, so our whole thing was transparency. Most people do not have the literacy in that space to understand where these things come from. So we do everything we can to educate. But the reality is, you get an email from us once a month that said, hey, this month we saved you $1,000. You want to dig into the detail? Here you go. And I think that's been really, really well received. The cool thing is we track long-term. Here's how much we saved you this year, over the last couple of years. It's really kind of a unique environment. And after the first year, we can continue to monitor it for you. And that we have a small fee for. And that could vary depending on how complicated or how many pages your statement is. But it could be like between $50 a month, and it could be significant if it's a 50,000 page statement, right? Mm-hmm. So that makes it really low cost to just kind of keep people honest. And that's really what our goal is.
Excellent. So I have another business, a battery business. I'm going to check out my statements first to see if we do that much a month. And then if we do, and I have friends who I know who do well over that, I'm going to send them to your way as well.
That's awesome.
So I think,
I mean, the more people we can impact, like, look, we wanted to call the company Robinhood because I was like, let's go. We're robbing from banks. I am going to be the most hated person in credit card processing, but it's a $50 billion problem. And it's not Fortune 500s, most of them. We've actually worked with some, but Fortune 500s aren't paying these kind of fees. They put it on the backs of small and medium-sized companies. And I just think that's like the people who can't afford to pay it are paying the most. Yep. And so it's like, how do we help them? And I'm not trying to take the profit off the table. I'm talking a $50 billion problem above normal, very good margins for these processing companies. And they trained the government to go bark up the wrong tree. Like, you probably heard about all these lawsuits with Visa and MasterCard settlements. They're like, hey, we think that they're charging too much. We want them to get out of the middle of it. We want them to reduce their fees. They did 20 years later, and God knows how much we spent in tax dollars fighting it. They changed it 4 basis points. That's 0.04%. And, they put out all these numbers. It's going to save the industry billions. And then they raise their prices like a month later. So it's like, the game is rigged. But Visa and MasterCard's not the problem. It's the credit card processing company. They can charge whatever they want above cost. And people don't know how to do that math. So that's what we're here to help. But that's not really, I think the point of it was not just Verifee or my business, but cost reduction needs to be something people do spend time on. Forget using me, forget using my software, my tools, or whatever, business. I think people should just take a look at what they're spending more frequently and really try to find little tiny wins could mean the difference between survival and not survival, because if it's 1% there, what are the other stuff that you're doing that is potential for, cost reduction? And I know a lot of small businesses, they got enough on their plate, but they're always trying to like turn things off instead of trying to cost reduce. And I often try to find and fight with, small business needs to focus on cost reduction programs as much as they can. Latch on to group purchasing organizations, do whatever it takes to do things cost effectively up front. And I know you can't do that with everything. And the more and more it's tough. I mean, I mentioned it pre-show, everything's a monthly fee now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you used to buy software. Now you have to pay for it every month, and it's just heavy burden. So any place you can find cost reduction, go for it.
Yeah. So now back to Verifee itself. Just curious, so if you're sending me a statement that says you saved me, $5,000 this month, then you also send a bill for 2,500, or how does that
Yeah,
work?
we split the savings with our customer. So the goal of that is we'll do all the work up front. We'll get you to better pricing, and then we'll set a period of time. It can be between 18 and 24 months that we split the savings with you. It really depends on the complexity of the deal and how much work is required up front. We'll do all that work for you. We literally take all of the bricks out of the briefcase for you. We walk in, do all the negotiation on your behalf with permission. And of course, we act as a part of your team. So we become part of your company. And as we complete that negotiation and get new rates and fees, you can visibly see the before and after. Here's what they used to be. Here's what they are today. So first month, when we get a new statement, we take their old rates and fees and apply it to the same buckets and categories they had previously. And you can easily see the delta, right? So it makes it very transparent on the before and after. And then we track that every single month. Mm-hmm. And we do it for a period of time. And over that time, while we're monitoring the account, we can see if they make any further changes. I'd say less than 20% of the companies that are out there don't change pricing. But most companies, 80% of them, change pricing at will with very nominal, if any, notice at all, because they don't have to. Mm-hmm. And the reason why they don't have to is bad, but I understand it. A new 2% cashback fuel purchase card comes out. They have to be able to adjust their pricing to accept that card. They're not going to call every single company that's ever been set up for credit card processing and say, hey, my cost increased, so I need to change your pricing. So they can change pricing at will without notice. You know what that leads to. So that means they just, hey, by the way, we have this new fee to cover our new expenses. and they add 5 basis points here, 3 cents there, $8 a month here. And eventually you look at your statement, I'm like, why am I paying 6%? And believe it, I have seen people pay 6, 7, and even 8% just to take a payment. And so it's out of hand. Don't get me wrong. There are people that are paying 1.9, 2 point, whatever. But remember how complicated credit card processing is. A debit card, when you swipe a debit card, it costs 0.25%. So why did we normalize that every time I swipe a credit card, it's 3%? It's actually not. So it's really looking at the 3,000 different rate and fee categories that exist and making sure that that's optimized first. And then what are they charging above and beyond that? And that's kind of that's the magic of our software behind the scenes. It can actually identify those things, understand them, and give us really negotiation power using that proprietary data, because now we know how much the money they make. I'm not trying to take all the money off the table. They would never agree to it. We make sure they still make money so that they want to maintain the account, but we try to get it down to as low as we can.
Fantastic stuff. Helping small business owners everywhere. Jeremy Lessaris. All right. Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. I think we got that straight to the point.
Yep.
That is a great service that you provide. And like I said, I'm send you over my stuff as well.
That's awesome.
I'll just go straight to the website, verifee.com, Verifee, verifee.com. That's the best way to contact you, correct?
Yes.
Verifee.com. And any closing thoughts before I let you go?
No, like I said, hope we can be helpful for the community. Hopefully we can reach as many people as possible before they catch up to what we're doing. Because I don't think they're going to love this when it gets out, but we're doing our best to reach as many people as we can. But like I said, even if it's not this, take your statement out, look at it. If it's above 2.5%, like you need to really start thinking about, what am I paying here?
Yep. Fantastic stuff. Thank you, Jeremy. We're going to spread the word for you, buddy. Appreciate you very much. Thanks for taking the time today.
Yeah, great to meet you.
Yes, great meeting you. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to the Dream Huge podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, remember the rules. Work hard. Never give up. Always keep an eye on your expenses. And dream huge, baby. Dream huge. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you.
Thank you for listening to the Dream Huge podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. For more inspiring content, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Dream Huge Realty and on TikTok at Dream Huge Inc. Until next time.